Hey everyone, welcome to Everyday English 15. We're really glad you're here. Thanks for pressing play and spending some time with us today.
This is a podcast style English learning show where we focus on real, everyday English, the kind people actually use when they're living their lives, talking to friends, ordering food, running errands, or just trying to get through the day without overthinking every sentence.
This is not textbook English,
It's not perfect English.
and it's definitely not English where every sentence sounds planned.
You're going to hear pauses. You're going to hear and You're going to hear us restart sentences, change our minds, and go off on little side stories. That's not a mistake. That's real English.
My name's Noah. I'm in my early 30s. I love sports, especially football and baseball. I love traveling, and a huge part of my life revolves around my dog Mookie. If you've ever had a dog, you know exactly what I mean when I say your schedule slowly stops being your own.
And I'm Ellie. I'm also in my early 30s. I love yoga, movies, traveling, cozy routines, and quiet time. I also have a cat named Tinkerbell, who is small, cute, dramatic, and fully convinced that she's in charge of my apartment, my schedule, and honestly, my entire life.
Each episode of this show is about 15 minutes long, so it's meant to fit easily into your day. You can listen while you're walking, commuting, cooking, cleaning, or just relaxing. You don't need to repeat anything unless you want to. The goal is simply to listen and get comfortable with how English sounds in real conversations.
All right, let's get into today's episode.
Before we even talk about coffee shops, let's do what real friends actually do and catch up a little. How was your weekend?
Honestly, my weekend was one of those weekends where nothing terrible happened, but everything felt slightly chaotic. I had this plan in my head that I was going to be productive, clean my apartment, do yoga, maybe watch a movie in the evening, and then Tinkerbell immediately destroyed that plan.
That's not surprising at all.
Not even a little. Saturday morning started peacefully. I made coffee at home, sat down, and thought, okay, today is going to be calm. 5 minutes later, Tinkerbell jumped onto a shelf, stared directly at me, and pushed something off with her paw. Not accidentally, slowly, very intentionally. So instead of stretching and relaxing, I was sweeping up broken glass and questioning all my life choices.
That is peak cat behavior. Uki is the opposite. He doesn't knock things over, but he needs attention constantly. My weekend was basically structured around him. Walk in the morning, walk in the afternoon, walk in the evening. Every time I sat down, he'd look at me like, we could be outside right now.
That's such a dog thing. Cats want control, dogs want involvement.
Exactly. And because of that, my mornings usually start early whether I want them to or not. On Sunday, Mookie woke me up around 6 in the morning by just standing next to the bed. No barking, no whining, just staring at me until I opened my eyes.
That's honestly unsettling. That feels like being haunted.
It really does. And once you're awake, that's it. You're not going back to sleep, which is why coffee becomes necessary very quickly.
Same. After my weekend chaos, coffee felt less like a drink and more like emotional support. And that's kind of like coffee shops are such a big part of everyday life for so many people.
Totally. Coffee shops are where weekdays and weekends blend together. You go there when you're tired, when you're busy, when you're meeting someone, or when you just don't want to be at home.
And you hear so much English there. Ordering, small talk, questions, complaints, jokes, which makes it a perfect situation to practice.
So imagine this. You walk into a coffee shop. The door opens and immediately you smell coffee. You hear background noise, people talking, cups clinking, maybe music playing quietly. You pause for a second just to figure out where to stand, because that moment is always slightly awkward.
You look around and spot the menu. It's big. It's full of options. Some words you recognize instantly, some you don't, and some you recognize but don't feel confident pronouncing. Even if you understand everything, you still have to make decisions.
You stand in line, pretending to read the menu, but really you're listening to how other people order. You notice how confident they sound, how fast they speak, how relaxed they seem. And you think, okay, I can do this.
Then, suddenly, it's your turn.
Someone looks at you and waits.
And your brain goes completely blank.
You start with something safe, something simple. You say hello, or maybe you just smile and nod. Immediately, you're thinking about whether that was enough or whether you should have said more.
Then you say, "Can I get a coffee?"
And the moment the words leave your mouth, you realize that wasn't specific enough. There are many kinds of coffee. So you correct yourself. You say, sorry, a medium coffee.
Now you're hoping that medium actually means what you think it means, because coffee shop sizes are confusing everywhere. Sometimes medium feels small. Sometimes large feels enormous.
Then comes the next question, cream or sugar?
This is actually an easier moment because you don't need a full sentence. You can just say a little cream or no sugar. Short answers are completely normal here.
And this is an important realization. You don't need perfect sentences. You just need to communicate.
But maybe you don't want just a regular coffee. Maybe you want something more specific. A latte, a cappuccino, a mocha.
So you say it. Can I get a latte, please?
Then the follow-up questions start coming in.
Hot or iced?
You pause. You hadn't thought that far ahead.
You say iced.
Then another question. What kind of milk?
This is where a lot of people get nervous, not because the English is difficult, but because it feels like pressure. You feel rushed. You feel like you should already know the answer.
So you hesitate. You say, you think. Then you say, oat milk.
That's it. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify it.
Then comes the dangerous question. Anything else?
Because now your eyes move to the food. You weren't hungry when you walked in, but suddenly you are. You see muffins, cookies, pastries, maybe sandwiches.
You ask what kinds they have. They list 3 or 4 options, and somehow all of them sound good. You pause, you overthink, you finally choose one.
And then, very often, you change your mind.
You say, actually, can I get 2?
That word, actually, is extremely useful. It softens changes. It makes them feel normal, and they are normal.
Sometimes you don't just change your mind about food. Sometimes you change your mind about the drink itself.
You order hot, then immediately regret it.
So you say, sorry, actually, can I get that iced instead?
Or maybe you realize you want it to go.
Actually, can I get this to go?
These small changes happen constantly, and they're a normal part of everyday English.
Then there's the waiting. After you order and pay, there's this strange in-between moment where you don't know what to do with yourself. You stand near the counter, you check your phone, you pretend to be busy even though you're not really reading anything.
You're listening. You're listening for your drink. You hear names being called, and every single time you wonder if it's yours, even when it clearly isn't.
And when they finally call a name that sounds even a little bit like yours, you just accept it. At that point, confidence matters more than accuracy.
I see this all the time. I take Mookie past the same coffee shop almost every morning. He's convinced that place exists entirely for him. He stops, looks at the door, and waits. Like, okay, this is where we go in now.
Tinkerbell would hate it. Too loud, too many people, too much chaos. She prefers quiet spaces where she can judge everything silently from a distance.
That difference, dog energy versus cat energy, is kind of like how people use coffee shops. Some people go there to socialize, some go there to work, some go there to hide.
All of that is normal.
Over time, ordering gets easier. You stop overthinking. You stop worrying about sounding perfect. You walk in, order what you want, answer questions calmly, and move on with your day.
You realize the goal isn't perfection, it's comfort.
And that's really what learning English is about. Feeling comfortable enough to exist in everyday situations without stress.
All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with us and letting us talk about weekends, pets, coffee, and everyday life.
If you keep listening, we'll keep walking through real-life situations like this, one conversation at a time.
Fame Relaxed Format.
Same everyday English.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.